All right, Harvard University making headlines for hosting a graduation ceremony only for illegal immigrants.
Some are questioning why the school would single these students out with an entirely separate ceremony if their immigration status wasn't a factor in their admission to begin with. So is this another example of identity politics invading campus culture? Joining us live from Campus Reform Correspondent Director is Emma Michelle. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. What do you make of the schools doing this?
Well, really, I think it's no wonder that we have so much identity politics in our political discourse today when this is what's going on our college campuses. And this example out of Harvard is only the latest. We've been covering at the Leadership Institute's campus reform for a long time that both administrations and students have been pushing for, separating students out based on demographics, based on race, based on identities. And really what this does is it separates people out and causes a lack of understanding amongst each other. And it's bad when it comes from administrations like at UConn when they set up a black-only segregated dorm, but it's even worse when it comes from students because students are supposed to represent the future. They're supposed to represent progress, coming together, setting aside our differences. It really is unnerving to see them wanting to go backwards and be regressive.
Yeah, you know, it was interesting to read about this for this segment because this wasn't really something that I was aware was happening, and I kept reading this word neo-segregation. What is that? Tell us about that.
Really what that is it's when people separate out into factions based on demographics and traits that they were born with, which, as we know, is completely undoing the work of civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks and others. I think they'd be heartbroken to see that students and young people are going back into separating into factions.
And they're like self-segregating. They're segregating themselves. They're not, it's not being done to them.
Yes, and Dr. King himself said that we must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. I think that's very timely advice even now. And college campuses especially are supposed to be bastions of progress where students are setting aside their differences, moving the ball forward. I think it's very disappointing that people are sliding back into things that people fought against for decades to try to get these things erased, and now we're going back to them.
Emma, let's go back to the graduation conversation for a second here and take a look at some examples of undocumented graduation. That's what it's being called. It's special graduation ceremonies for illegal immigrant graduates, and you can see a list here. Harvard, as we mentioned, had one last week. North Carolina high schools have been doing it since 2013. Washington State had its 5th annual this June, and Sacramento State has been doing it since April 2016. Is this something that should be happening?
This is a trend that we've been seeing for a while now of separating into factions, but the illegal immigration part of it is new. And this brings up an important legal ramification because this is actually highlighting people who are breaking federal laws. And this is not just separating out into race-based groups, this is actually into legal status. And it does raise the question, what message is this sending to students when you reward those who choose to break our laws and don't do things the right way, especially to students who may have struggled and gone through the proper processes, the long process of becoming an immigrant and a citizen legally. I think this really steps on their decision and their hard work, and this is sending the wrong message to students.
Our campuses are becoming very interesting places. We did reach out to Harvard University for a comment. We have not yet heard back. Emma, thank you so much for bringing this to light for us.
Of course. It's great to be here.